Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our LILIN webinar. I'd just firstly like to apologise for yesterday, where there was a few technical difficulties, but be aware they shouldn't happen today. Dogs have their bones, the kids have been locked away and gagged. No, in all seriousness, the dogs don't have bones. But we do appreciate you joining us today. So before we start, a few housekeeping points. We've disabled all your microphones and cameras automatically to keep things running as smoothly as possible. This webinar, though, is being recorded, and you will be sent a link where you can download the recordings tomorrow or Monday. Please use the Q&A function if you have any questions at all during the webinar, and I've set aside 10 minutes at the end to go through these questions. If you prefer to contact us privately, our contact details are included at the end of the webinar. This webinar is about 20 to 25 minutes long, and then we have the Q&A. We also have a webinar next week that we hope you will join us on, which we go through some of the cameras in more detail. So, moving on. For those of you who don't know LILIN, here's a brief overview of our history. We were established in 1980, so we're actually 40 years old this year. We were planning lots of celebrations, but obviously they're on hold for now. We've always made video surveillance products. It's what we're good at. And in 2008, we transitioned from analog to IP. In 2013, we delivered our first IP-based automation driver. This was for Control 4, and we've expanded our range greatly since then. We have over 500 employees worldwide, with offices in such places as the USA, Australia, Malaysia, and Italy. We are members of CIDIA, and we have been now for over 5 years, and we are active participants in their forums and training courses. Our training course, Surveillance for Customer Install, actually earns you 3.5 CIDIA points upon attendance. We were lucky enough in 2017 to win the Best Training Course of the Year award, and we run training throughout the year from our Milton Keynes base. If you are interested in any of the training courses, please let us know at the end. Obviously, we don't know the schedule due to COVID moving forward. So, as I've mentioned, we work with a lot of home automation partners. You can see here, including AMX, Control 4, Crestron, ELAN, RTI, Fibro, Savant, and URC. And we have deep drivers for all of these products. But today, we're giving you an introduction to the 2 series camera range. Now, the 2 series camera range is actually made up of 2 cameras ranges, the P2 and the Z2. And I'll go through what the differences between the P and the Z are later in this webinar. All models are available in 2 megapixel 1080p or 5 megapixel variants. They use a Sony STARVIS sensor for ultra low light surveillance. And we'll also look at multiple streams, lower bandwidth, and the massive large range of chassis we have available for you. So let's start the session focus with STARVIS ultra low light performance. I mentioned that we use the Sony STARVIS sensor. This is actually a back illuminated sensor and is designed to provide ultra low light performance. And this includes both color and monochrome performance. I now have a short video that shows you the difference between a STARVIS camera and a non-STARVIS camera in multiple scenarios. So you can see for yourself the quality of the image produced by the 2 series camera. So the left-hand side here, we have our 2 series and the non-STARVIS camera over here on the right. So all of this video is done in color mode without the need of any IR. Here we can see the difference between somebody moving in a very dark area 2 series can offer. So Sony actually use a signal to noise ratio value to rate their sensors. The lower the number, the better the performance. Our 2 megapixel cameras use the IMX327 STARVIS sensor. So you can see we have a very low value there. So it's a very, very good sensor that we have integrated into our camera solution. Again, I'm just going to highlight a part of the video that you've seen previously. This time, the right-hand side is our Sony, as our LILIN 2 series camera, and we have a non-STARVIS sensor working on the right. But just look at the difference. This is a really, really low light, dark area. In fact, I'll show you an overall image of the area here so you can see just how dark this area is. Here's the person, and look at the image we can achieve using our latest 2 series cameras. Another video I have for you, again, right-hand side is our 2 series camera, and on the left is our non-STARVIS camera. So our LILIN 2 series camera on the right. Again, it's quite a low light environment, but look at how crisp the colour are here on the right hand side and the depth of field. We're actually achieving this with a P iris lens, which I will cover a little bit later as well. The final video I have for you is a 24-hour time-lapse video that was done at our offices in Milton Keynes. We go through the whole night here, not needing to turn to monochrome mode, and you can see how the camera adapts to all the varying light conditions. And in fact, it seems like 4 seasons in one day here. We seem to go through every single weather condition that is possible. Obviously, this was taken before lockdown started. So that's a little bit about the STARVIS sensor. Now we're going to look at multiple streams. So what do I mean by multiple streams? Well, we'll start with our 2 megapixel 1080p camera. This camera has the capability to be able to stream the 2 megapixel stream at 60 frames per second if we wish. Now, this is only 60 frames if we only have 1 stream. Now, we know that that's not often the case. These cameras are capable of quadruple streaming, meaning they can stream to four streams independently at a time. So our 2 megapixel stream is now reduced to 30 frames because we're going to have another stream. Now we have a 720p stream also streaming at 30 frames per second. So the first stream was used for our LILIN recording device. The second stream, the 720p, could be used for our control system. So now we're getting a 720p high definition image on our Control 4 panel, for instance. On top of that, we have a 480p stream. We use this for our multi-stream, so when we're in quad mode or another multi-stream. We can also use it for control systems that can't handle the higher resolution of 720p or some mobile applications. Again, 30 frames. And our final stream is a SIF D1 stream, again at 30 frames, and this would be used for low bandwidth environments or very old control systems. So we are streaming all 4 streams at the same time. So quadruple streaming. Here's a summary of that for you. So our first stream could be H.265 or H.264 or JPEG at 1080p, 2 megapixel at 30 frames. While our second stream, we have the choice of changing it to H.264, for instance. So our first stream is H.265 to our recording device, but our control system can't take a H.265 stream. So we choose a H.264 at 30 frames, 720p. While we then use H.265 for our multi-view purpose. Here's a quick look at the camera GUI, where we can set these different streams or encoders, as they're called in the camera menu. So encoder 1, 1080p. We can also set frame rates and the bit rates for each individual encoder stream. So here I have H.264 at 1080p with 25 frames per second at 3 megabits per second. We also have a very useful RTSP URL link at the bottom of every encoder. This can be used if you forget the RTSP stream names when you're implementing it with a control system. The 5 megapixel cameras are slightly different. So we can have a H.265 or H.264 or JPEG again, 5 megapixel stream, but we have 25 frames per second now, rather than the 30 frames on the 2 meg. What you will notice is if we choose to have a 5 megapixel stream, we can't have a 720p stream as our second encoder. We can have a 720 by 576, for our control system, if compatible. But we still get our 480p and our JPEG D1 stream at 15 frames. If we choose that we want a 720p stream for our control system, we need to drop our encoder 1, our mainstream, down to 4 megapixels at 30 frames. This way we can then achieve the 720p, 480 and the SIF. This is a quick look at the 5 megapixel GUI. So the beauty of LILIN cameras is across the whole series, the GUI is the same. So if you know one camera, you understand them all. Lower bandwidth. I've already mentioned H.265, so you know that they're capable of H.265, but a standard LILIN camera streaming H.264, we generally set them for about 4 megabits per second. Now, using H.265 compression, we can reduce that bandwidth down to approximately 2 megabits per second. The reduction can be up to 50%. Now, how does that affect you? Well, obviously you save bandwidth on your environment, but of course you save storage. So 30-day storage for one 2 megapixel camera at 30 frames per second, we generally recommend at H.264 that you have 1 terabyte per camera. Now, of course, if you choose H.265, you're going to reduce that. So you could actually get 60 days storage with your 1 terabyte hard drive now, because you're reducing your storage needs. So I mentioned at the beginning we have a large range of chassis. So, and I also mentioned about the P2 and Z2. So what does P2 mean? Well, P in our 2 series means fixed lens option. Okay, so P, fixed lens. We still have the 2 megapixel and 5 megapixel variants, and I've already mentioned that we can achieve up to 60 frames at 1080p if we wish. We've mentioned the quadruple streaming and the STARVIS sensor. They're also ONVIF Profile S certified, and most models will take an SD card recording. We also have many IVS and smart alarm features on these cameras, and we'll actually cover those features in next week's webinar if you're interested. So we have an internal 2-inch dome. This has a 2.8 fixed mil lens and has 30-meter IR. We also have a 2-way audio path on this camera. Now, it's important to remember with LILIN cameras, when we say 2-way audio path, we don't mean a built-in microphone. Unless it states it has a built-in microphone, it doesn't have one. A 2-way audio path means it has a line in and line out capabilities. We then have the external 2-inch dome. So it looks exactly the same as the internal dome, but now it's IP67 weatherproof and IK10 impact rated. This is a vandal resistant version. You'll notice at the bottom as well, we have a large range of accessories from wall brackets to back boxes, pendant drops, which we can extend, so we can drop this down with 30-meter extensions, and we have pole mount adapters that our bracketry can then connect to as well. Our turret camera, probably our most popular camera, because obviously we have a separate lens and IR. So we have the reduction in IR reflection issues that you can have on some other models. Again, it's IP67 and IK rated, but we do not have on this one any digital alarm inputs because it's a sealed unit. Again, no audio on this one, but we do have a large range of accessories also available for this model. The Microdome is our smallest camera yet. We actually call it the Microdome because it has a built-in microphone. It's the size of a tennis ball, so it's very, very nicely designed. It's great for use in porches. Can also be used internally, remember. All of the cameras that are with IP rating for external use can be used internally as well. This one, even though it is so small, still comes packed with a 30-meter IR. And we have a 2.8 mil lens version, so it's a very wide angle that you could achieve with this camera. So that's the P series. Then we have the Z2 series. So the Z means varifocal, auto zoom, autofocus lens. So we can have the lens to be from 2.8 to 12 mil, for example, or 2.8 to 8, depending on the variant. And it can zoom in to any of the preset points between these using the motorized capabilities. And these can be driven through the web browser, through the GUI on the web browser, through the mobile app, or from your MVR, or even your control system if it's integrated with the correct driver. This short video shows this camera being driven from 2.8 to 12 mil. So we're driving it using my mobile app on screen, and then once it gets to its position, it's focusing. So in the Z series, we have a range of turrets. You'll notice that we now have a black version available as well. So this is a standard black version. So the turret has a 2.8 to 8 mil varifocal lens, and again, 30 meter IR. The same accessories available, but we do have the back box also available in black for you. We have the 3-inch dome, 2.8 to 12 mil on this one, with the two-way audio path still included. But you'll note we have a P-Iris version here as well. So P-Iris, what do I mean when I say P-Iris? Well, traditional cameras, the conventional DC lens will open and close the camera's iris based on the light levels in the scene without taking into account how this will affect the image. Now, P-Iris works with the camera software to consider the light levels and the scene for an optimal depth of view. So you can see here with duck images, using a P-Iris lens, I improve my depth of field greatly here. And you could use this in things like high-speed environments where you want to track the object throughout its whole scene. Our bullet range, we have our short range IR. So this is a 30 meter IR. We still have two-way audio on these, and they are still IP67 weatherproof rated. The accessories have changed slightly. We have a back box here because these do come with a fly lead. So you can install the back box and put the fly lead into the back box. The back box can then fit to a pole mount adapter if you want, and there are also corner mount adapters if you wish. The actual chassis on this one is approximately 18 centimeters in length, and it has a three-way access here at the back, so you can wall mount it or ceiling mount this camera. Our medium range, 2.8 to 12 mil, but with 40 meter IR. The accessories here change slightly because we have a larger bracket. So the back box doesn't need the face plate anymore, so it connects straight to this back box for you. In our medium range, we also have a 7 to 22 mil option for you. The reason for this is you may want the same pixel density, but at a greater, longer distance. So the 7 to 22 mil lens will obviously narrow your view and you'll be further zoomed in. You could use this for ANPR solutions if you wish. We have a long range IR bullet. This has a massive 100 meter IR. So a really, really long IR. It also has a 5.3 to 130 mil varifocal lens. So it's incredibly long. Here in this video, this is outside our warehouse in Milton Keynes. I'm actually zooming in here over 60 meters. For those of you who are interested, in next week's webinar, we actually cover some of the IR features. So I have mentioned IR a lot today, so I'm just going to show you a quick video with our IR performance. So this video was taken outside my garden. You can see from the image it's quite dark at the start, and I only have a few lights on. We have a STARVIS P2 camera here on the left-hand side and a non-STARVIS camera on the right. You can see just how good the STARVIS camera looks compared to the non-STARVIS camera. And again, this time I make the view even darker, so I turn the lights off, and the STARVIS camera is achieving a great image. Security. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on security at the moment, so it's important to remember we are a Taiwanese company and then focused on ensuring cybersecurity for all of our products. We work with companies such as Leroux to test both new and old products and test for vulnerabilities continuously so that we can prevent any weaknesses. One of our new policies is that you will be asked to set a new password when first installing any device. There will be no default passwords anymore. Okay. Cameras also include HTTPS, IEEE 802.1, IP address and MAC filtering for extra security. But when we mention security, we don't just mean security of the product, we mean security for you as an installer. So we price protect our products as well. You will never find a LILIN price online that isn't the recommended MSRP. Anybody who wants to publish prices online has to sign up to our agreement on this. So why should you choose LILIN? Well, we are the only CI-focused manufacturer, and we work alongside the home automation platforms to ensure that if we change a firmware in the future, it won't affect your system. Our drivers are deep and allow both IP and AHD products to be integrated. And we have over 250 camera models from 2 megapixel solutions to 4K. We have a huge platform of online resources, including our knowledge base, and our technical support is unparalleled. Our sales staff are available for support with product specifications and quotations. We can also offer on-site support for specifying projects with unique requirements. Our contact details are now on the screen. So as I've said before, we will be spending a few minutes now to go through a few of the questions that you've asked. But if you don't wish to ask a question during today, please feel free to email us at any of these. Email us at contact@lilin.uk or direct to your salesperson if you know your contact. I have mentioned several times today that we are running another webinar next week, which will be going through some of the menus and some of the unique features of the 2 series. So I hope you will join us for those. So let me have a quick look at some of the questions that you have asked. Okay, so bear with me a second. Richard Wilson has asked, will we cover ANPR next week? I'm afraid next week's one won't cover ANPR. We will be looking next week in more detail at the 2 series unique features, such as the IRs, how we can amend those to work for us, and some of the options in the menus to improve our picture performance. We will be doing ANPR though in future webinars, so please keep a lookout for those. Okay, we have a question here. Will STARVIS work on my NVR 3216? Now, using these new range of cameras with our back catalogue of NVRs is possible, but what you have to remember is to choose the right resolution NVR. So the 3216 NVR can have up to 4 megapixel, 4 megapixel, I believe, cameras installed. So we would have to make sure that we were using the appropriate resolution. Also, the 3216 can't have H.265 streaming. So we would have to make sure that we stream at H.264 for that. If we wanted to make sure the NVR we were working with could work with any of the 2 series, I would recommend the 5 series NVRs because these are up to 4K and H.265 compatible. John has asked a question that I get asked a lot. Is there any updated iOS app in the pipeline? Well, I'm happy to say yes, there is. We have LILIN Home, which we're in the middle of beta testing at the moment, and that is very, very close to being released. Please we will let you know as soon as that is available. But we are very, very pleased with it so far. Okay, Jasmine has asked, does the camera change to monochrome automatically, or can I set it when it turns back to black and white? We'll actually be covering that next week. We have somebody who's asked, are LILIN Chinese? No, I've mentioned several times, we are a Taiwanese manufacturer and we've been around since 1980. Scott has asked, can you reduce the power of the IR? Again, you're ruining my webinar for next week because that's one of the features, but yes, you can. Pete Alloway, thank you for the hooray. Okay, and then somebody else has asked, when would you use STARVIS versus IR? Now, this all depends on what you're looking to achieve and the environment you're putting the camera into. If the camera is if your environment is completely dark, like with no lighting at all, then obviously you're going to need IR. But STARVIS, and remember STARVIS also includes monochrome mode, but STARVIS color, which most of you are interested in, works very well at low light conditions. So you saw our building there in Milton Keynes. With natural street lighting of 5 to 10 lux, you can get very, very good monochrome images. I mean, color images, not monochrome, sorry. Monochrome obviously at like 0 lux. Richard Wilson, guessing the Android app will follow the new iOS? Yes, we're testing both of them at the moment. Okay, I'm just going through the questions to see if I've missed any. If I have missed your question, I apologise, but there are quite a lot appearing here on my screen, and I'm working my hardest to get through them for you. Okay, so Andre from Russia has asked, if the first stream is set to 2 megapixels, 60 frames, will the camera allow me to choose a second stream at 720p 30? Unfortunately not, Andre. If you choose to do the 60 frames 2 megapixel, that is the only encoding stream you get out of the camera. If you wish to have the multiple streams, you have to drop the frame rate of that first 2 megapixel stream. It's also worth mentioning that if you choose to have HDR set, this will also affect the streams that you can achieve. Okay, so that seems to be all of our questions. As I've mentioned quite a few times today, we will be having further webinars moving forward, so we hope you will join us on those. And we look forward to emailing you this presentation in the next few days. On behalf of myself and LILIN, I thank you all for joining us, and obviously wish you and your families safety during these unprecedented times. Thank you for joining us.